Aubrey, hello. Good to see you. Come on down.
Likewise.
It's been, gee, I was trying to think, was it 5 or 6 years?
It's been quite some time. How have things been in your world?
Oh, it's been pretty good. Really good. Yeah. What about yourself? It's been, I don't know. You were at Vic's, I believe. I was still resident, I believe, of Boulder, and then I got got a great job with Poudre Valley Hospital, and then they forced my hand to open up a private practice, and then that thing exploded, and so yeah. Unlike Boulder, Fort Collins has been very, very good to me. So yeah, it wasn't a user-friendly place, the mental health center, and those people. But hey, I'm in a better place. And then there's you. What about you?
Me. Well, completed half of my bachelor's degree after I got tired of corporate world.
Oh, okay. What are you going after in Bachelor World?
Western classics, actually.
Western? Amazing. Wow. You don't mind if I write a few notes and stuff like that?
By all means, write down whatever you wish.
All right. I just I've been noticing that if I don't write it down, I usually have a tendency to forget. You got quite the caseload these days. So, and I always had resentment towards those people that would write notes, that looks like a...
Well, are you working with lighter cases now, or are you still working in like the heavy duty stuff like you were before?
Well, a little bit of both. Because in the hospital, obviously those are critical cases because they end up hospitalized. Much like, there was a time you ended up in one that I recall. So, kind of the same kind of situation, adolescent hospital. Well, there's an adult and an adolescent unit. It's called Mountain Crest Hospital. It's on the other side of town. And
you mind if I relocate to make more efficient use of your pillows?
Please. Do so. And if you like, this chair, people see that chair as well. So, and then the rest of the caseload here in my private practice, adolescents, of course, and most of them with drug problems. Because I'm a licensed family therapist, I'll work with the families as well.
And you're also a licensed social worker, correct?
Licensed marriage and family therapist.
Oh, so you just have the master's in social work, but you...
Actually, no, I got a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in counseling.
I see.
And then I got licensed, California, then came out here to Colorado, and they just said, please throw us some money. And I got licensed here, and it was, you didn't have to do anything.
No, once you've got the first state, it's easier to get the subsequent ones.
And it depends on the state, too.
True enough.
California, New York pretty much set the precedent. Everybody else just says, throw us some money.
Well, I mean, in fact, that's pretty much what my problem is that I'm seriously considering going into human rights law. But that's one of the few things where they can get access to just about anything they damn well please.
In terms of a law degree, or
in terms of an actual license before the bar.
They can go after your adolescent records?
Yes, they can. In fact, in many states, you are required to disclose even expunged records. And of course, there's the U.S. Supreme Court case Dickerson v. New Banner, which dates all the way back from 1983, which set up a doctrine which establishes that a deferred judgment, because it's based on a guilty plea, may not be a conviction since it has no judgment of conviction, but where the word conviction appears plainly in a federal statute. The going interpretation of that word is that a deferred judgment is a conviction. And what makes it worse is that different states have different opinions on that. The U.S. Supreme Court decision, Congress immediately responded to and passed a law to fix. But the decision is still considered binding case law. It's one of those bizarre catch-22s that can only happen in a legal system so complicated, almost no one can fit the entire thing in their head.
Yeah, I'm already, my head's oozing out of stuff. So, and of course, well, you know, you of all people are rather versed and intelligent, and so if you found something that's going to be in your way, I would imagine it's going to be in your way. Now, let's recall. I don't recall you getting convicted for anything, so remind me what happened here, because...
Well, I was going to actually ask that question the other way, because, Governor Ritter set the precedent of being able to pardon a deferred judgment, even a successfully completed and dismissed one, on his way out the door. Because, of course, you know, lame duck is when these things happen.
Right.
But that does mean that it is possible, even when there's no conviction, there's just a guilty plea, to pardon the case.
Yet, when you were in that prime age between 16 and 17, or 14, you know, when I came around, I mean, granted, yes, there was conflict with you and Mom. Yes, there was altercations. You ended up hospitalized one time. But are you saying Mom... And I'm assuming Mom, on numerous occasions, must have called the police.
Well, and that's actually... I was hoping you had a better memory. I do have some of your actual notes on me that I can look at, but... I was actually hoping that you might be able to refresh my memory a bit, because the other thing I'm asked to do is give a factual accounting of the case and what happened and all of that in my pardon application, and I'm sure you're aware I was pretty paranoid back then. So I was hoping the information flow could go the other way. I was hoping you had some recollection of all of that.
Well, give me some time here, okay? I'm processing as we speak. First things first, though. It's my recollection you were never arrested. Am I not accurate?
Well, don't you remember being on the phone with me on September the 12th, 2001, when I told you I didn't want to enter the plea, even though, you're the one who drove me to the DA. Remember, you drove me to the prosecutor twice? That wasn't me. And the first time I walked out. And the second time, you know, you explained to me how it was in my best interest. And I think you were absolutely correct. That it was absolutely necessary that I gave in because, you know...
Because if I did say that, which I would see that would be me, is because, if I said it, it's because this was a treatment case. This was a case where, and I remember doing things like that, again, not so much with you, but with another kid. He came from Lafayette, and he got in trouble with the law only because he said some threatening things. And I think either if Mom didn't, someone made Mom push it. And I remember having to go toe-to-toe with Magistrate Cole, saying, look, this isn't about a bad kid getting good. This is about a sick kid getting well. And much to his chagrin, he honored that and said, all right, guys, then you better do some treatment here or else I am going to throw him to plant. But what's the treatment plan? And painstakingly, we had to come up with, a treatment plan that, and the good news is it worked. So,
you remember the meeting with the guy, right? Because, that's exactly what happened in my case, too, was that we ended up, let's see if I've got the right page here. We ended up meeting with the Dale Pugh guy, and,
remember, was that his name?
Yeah, that was the prosecutor's name, although I didn't know that till I looked up his bar number from this page. But, ended up with that agreement there, which had me basically required
continue current therapy, yeah. Mental center board.
And, I definitely didn't ask for that agreement, and I know my mom wasn't asking for it, so I'm not sure how that happened.
How this happened?
Yeah, I don't know how he even, knew to put on Boulder County Mental Health and everything.
Can I see more of this?
Let me give you a different packet, because this is pretty much the court case. I don't have much.
Do you have any of my records by any chance?
I do.
Because I had to, when you leave the mental health center, you relinquish all access to such records.
Well,
Treatment notes.
here are the records from 7/15 and 8 whatever. But unfortunately, that doesn't have the note about you meeting with us with the
Okay, but
DA.
the good news is that it'll at least give me, that's me, that's my signature, okay.
So that's definitely your signature on that
Okay,
page.
that's me, okay.
And I just want to make sure I've thoroughly reality tested everything before I write my letter.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you did receive a ticket. And Jessica Fry was on the case. Okay, I remember Jessica, real tall. Remember her, real tall social worker? From
I only
the
met with her once, and that was
Really?
after the plea was already entered.
Okay.
She wasn't interested in my desire to report child abuse at the time.
Yeah, and it was such a crazy time because your mom fired me twice. If I didn't say, things didn't go well, I told her what she needed to hear, not what she wanted to hear. I ended up fired.
So you ran into that too.
Oh, yeah.
But you thought I was paranoid when I told you my mom was telling lies.
No. Did I write to that?
Yes, it's all over your records. And let me just say one thing, Dan,
Mm-hmm.
because, and this is something I wanted to ask about, because you helped me quite a bit then, but you never actually expressly told me you thought I was paranoid, so I didn't know that until I went through these records and found out that was one of the reasons that everything happened.
Okay, but yeah, let's I'm seeing where you're reading, but okay. So here's a sentence. Client sounded rather paranoid, as in the past, of his mother, of how his mother is trying to ruin him. When asked about how. Yet, okay, so that's one that says sounded paranoid, okay? Show me another note, and I want to just look at that because I'll give you some insight about clinical verbiage. Okay, so I saw that one.
Okay, well let's look at 411. That one will actually do the trick as well.
Client sounded rather paranoid about. Okay. The good news. There's good news. Clinically speaking, I never said you were paranoid. And I can always write a letter to that. You were never paranoid. You sounded paranoid. You would appear paranoid. But, given the fact that your mother did hospitalize you several times, did give also with the fact that I believe we were always concerned about your mom's mental stability at the time. And she was tended to awfulize things more than they really were.
Yes.
And when I tried to bring this up to her attention, and I would usually end up getting fired, and Susan would tell me, "Deanie, you're going to probably have to find a way to,
Susan?
Susan Enlow was one of the supervisors at the time. Susan Enlow and Rhonda Zoker-Beaupre was the first supervisor on the case. Susan Enlow pretty much he stayed throughout most of the time. Stacy Kaiser came in. I don't know if you had already been discharged by the time Stacy had came in. So I was only there about 4.5 years.
And I don't know any of their names, pretty much. You were my only contact with all of that, you and Eliopoulos.
Okay. I haven't seen him in a long time. So, I
remember that I got arrested, I got taken away in handcuffs. They said it wasn't an official arrest, they did some weird thing where they didn't print me. Mm-hmm. But we ended up going to the DA like twice.
Right.
And the first time I went, I told him to shove the piece of paper up his ass, basically. And we walked out because I insisted we walk out. And then the second time we went was on September 10th. And basically it was 2 days before the arraignment. And it was explained to me that I pretty much needed to take a deal or I was going to jail. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that? Because
Well, you know what would happen? What was going to happen was that they were going to take it to court. You weren't going to go to jail because you hadn't been convicted of anything. They were just going to move it over to court. All we tried to do, because we're not lawyers, we tried to tell the DA, and if there was a defense attorney, but apparently it doesn't sound like there was one.
I wasn't permitted one.
Okay. And that was probably because we're trying to tell the DA, why are we going to go to court? This is a mental health issue. This isn't about crime. This is a mental health issue. It always has been a mental health issue. I just need, if you guys can help me maintain leverage, because I always need a young person to have, if I have a baseball bat or a 2x4, we'll call it Magistrate Cole or Platt, to just remind a young person that I need you to stay focused on what's in front of you. I need you to stay focused on your treatment plan, and everything's going to smooth over. Because if you don't, then one of these things are going to go whap on your head. Okay, but all that. So
is that why I had to enter the guilty plea? Was for leverage?
I don't know if you had to enter a plea because did you go to a court case?
I went to court. I was required to go to court, and I was required to plead guilty. And I called you on September the 12th before the arraignment, and I told you I didn't want to do it. And your reply was, "You can maintain. Don't worry, you'll be able to do just fine." Mm-hmm. You even told me that a jury was never going to believe me if I tried to go to trial.
That could be possible. But there hasn't been an adolescent case at the time. Again, this is juvenile court. Juvenile courts, we can go on a crime route or we can go on a mental health route. If the person is unwilling to go anywhere, then we're going to have to go through the motions, and we're going to, Magistrate Cole, I don't know I don't know how the law would function, but the worst case scenario is, they could have arraigned you or sentenced you, and then you would have had jail time.
I had a deferred sentence.
You had a deferred sentence.
No, there was no jail time. Jail time wasn't even a possibility in the case, actually.
So the way the DA told it to me, as I understand it, is that we can do this where if he's willing to maintain treatment, and again, they're telling us, mental health center, because they're guiding us too. We just want the kid to get treatment and to maintain treatment. We don't want to see this as he acted out criminally, because him and mom together they don't do well. Okay? And so this wasn't just you, Aubrey. It was, you and your mom, we did push her to, get her own, I don't know if she ever got counseling during that time. I don't recall.
Now, did you push her to call the police or to prosecute me? Because she claims
this was already done. I think you guys had this altercation before, because the police were already there.
Well, there were two altercations. There was one in April and one in July.
Mm-hmm.
And the one in April, you came while it was happening, or while it was over, but the cops were there because my mom called. Mm-hmm. And the one in July, I had already been arrested before we got a hold of anyone, and I was already being prosecuted. Mm-hmm. And I made it clear to everyone, including you, I wanted to plead not guilty and fight it in court. Mm-hmm. And it was explained to me that that was not wise.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to understand that because...
Well, it wasn't wise. If I said it wasn't wise in the sense of I'm a therapist and I'm trying to help you promote a good mental health, ability to stay on task in school. Was you in Broomfield High at this time?
I had actually already graduated. I ended up flunking out of CU shortly after the arraignment.
I'm still on the case at this time? Because the last time you were in Broomfield High, the last time I...
Well, remember, the case was going to be discharged, and I don't think my mom wanted it to be discharged, so she kept calling the cops. Remember, the note, for instance, from 7:15. I'm sorry, I have something of an eidetic memory. I sometimes expect others to have the same. But let's see, like even the note here, client was supposed to discharge from PAC this month because I had graduated high school.
Yeah, client was supposed to discharge. However, police incident facility shall remain available until client is emancipated or their issues are resolved. What year? 2001, right? Okay.
I mean, just to confess an honest passing thought, I almost worry if you're still playing games with me because you keep using prefixes like, if I said that. It seems like you're trying to not say anything, which I don't understand, but...
I'm just trying to remember. I'm coming back to, oh my gosh, 01. We're talking about 10 years ago.
All I'm trying to do is put this behind me and move on.
Well, and Aubrey, let me ask the question. What can I do to help?
Well, it would be helpful if... Well, I need to fully understand everything, though. I mean, do you remember anything at all? What do you remember? Because you remember there was the altercation in April, and Mom called. And you came out, and something happened, and we ended up having a family therapy session, and that was the end of that, and then my mom kept beating me, and so I finally, for the first time in my entire life, fought back in July of 2001. After in April, my mother had just attacked me and then made a few random accusations. And the cops were still going to arrest her, but you intervened. Do you remember that?
Intervening from her getting arrested?
Yes.
By telling cops not to arrest Mom?
That's correct.
Oh. Wow. I wasn't your favorite fan of your mom now, okay? So I'm like,
Do you mind if I show you one more page from April?
Please do.
This is also you, is it not? That's the other notes page from April 11th. My mom was going to be arrested. I was going to be out of that house. Everything was going to be fine. And then you showed up. I wouldn't have ever been arrested for defending myself from an abusive parent if that had not occurred. I would really like to know, because I'm sure my mom lied out her ass to make that happen. But I would like to know what was going on.
Okay. Okay, so Aubrey, you know what it sounds like to me, that all that I was trying to do was probably keep anyone from getting arrested.
and that, maybe we can work this out. All I can do, because all I am in that position, all I can do is advocate. I can't tell a police officer what to do. So if I say,
I'm aware of that. I really want to understand why you advocated my mom not get arrested for attacking me on that day, and then you advocated I plead guilty to battery on another day. Because that agreement I showed you that requires me to participate in treatment with Boulder County Mental Health, so clearly someone from Boulder County Mental Health was involved in its negotiation, because you were at least aware that I was not interested in treatment. I was trying to get the hell out of treatment, right?
Yeah, you were, but I thought we had a pretty good rapport, though, at the time.
Oh, I wasn't interested in medication. By the way, 10 years off medication.
Really?
Really.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah. This is a crazy time going on with
I would not have entered
respect.
that guilty plea if I weren't stuck living with my mother,
But
and
you
if it
were
weren't
stuck.
explained to me that I had no choice.
Well, that's for sure. Because if I recall at the time, help me understand this, but your relationship with your father, whom your brother was staying with most of the time, if I recall,
It had been utterly poisoned by my mother.
It was bad. Okay. So, yeah, I think as a therapist, coming out there, after all that was going on, and...
Were you aware at this time that my mother was regularly abusing me and that I was not defending myself? Because you said that you thought it was mutual altercations. But do you know, on April 11th, I did not strike my mother. Not once. The most I did was put my hands up. She stabbed me with a fork that day.
Your mom would have said something that would have tainted that story of somehow always putting it. Your mom, you even said it best, though we probably wouldn't admit it in front of you.
You called me
said it
paranoid.
best. No, we said you sound paranoid. I can't never call a person paranoid because I don't want to, I don't want to incriminate myself. You sounded a little paranoid, but you also used to say, my mom... In fact, I'm surprised you don't have the note where I must have wrote it several times where you say, my mom has Munchausen by proxy.
So you were aware I kept saying that?
Yes!
Now, let me show you another note that I do have.
Yes, and we would not, it's not like...
And this is from from February, 2 months prior to the first event, and then 3 months later was the second, where I openly predicted that my mother was going to start making accusations against me, and your response was paranoid. And the problem I'm running into is that it seems like there's a consistent story. Client sounded paranoid, we'll ignore this. In April, client sounded paranoid, we'll get mom out of jail free. In July, client sounded paranoid, we'll make client enter a guilty plea.
Okay, if you need me to... Because that's not where we were going. We were not trying to say, hey, mom's fine, the kid's paranoid.
I want to know what you were trying to do, and I really want to know what happened behind the scenes to make this work. Because I have the most overwhelming pile of evidence. I was a battered child who pled guilty to battering my mother. And you have no idea what that does to you.
Oh, Aubrey.
And I did it because of the plea agreement that you negotiated with Dale. And I would like you to take responsibility for that, because I was required in court to confess to being a batterer.
You were only asked, in my recollection, you were only asked to, hey, will you follow with these guys, stay in treatment, do what's in... It was never set up, and it was never...
It was never set up to incriminate me, it was just set up to compel me.
Just follow through with treatment. As written.
But you did arrange that, at least. You arranged it for treatment.
I think we would say, this is a mental health case, this is not a criminal case, we've got to get it away from here. I think that was probably...
So why was I required to enter a guilty plea then?
I don't know. That I don't know. I don't know why you would have to enter a guilty of just versus saying, hey...
Well, I insisted it was no contest because I wasn't about to speak the word guilty. Mm-hmm. But the truth is a no contest plea is a guilty plea. We all know that. For every purpose. Jessica Fry, after that, if you recall, tell me if you remember this conversation, said that I was basically on probation, and because of the guilty plea, it was established that I was beating up my mom and that was what was going on. Mm-hmm. Do you remember that? That was like the last conversation with Jessica Fry before my mom decided to change bad guys again?
When about was that?
That was in September, but unfortunately I didn't bring the September notes.
Mm-hmm.
September was the very last note. You actually remarked in that note, quote, client seemed rather pleased with the agreement, but, and let me see if I can refresh your memory, because this I hope will help. Because of course I wasn't pleased. I was pissed as hell, but I get to a point sometimes at the last utmost end of desperation where all you can do is sort of smile. That's been misread at least twice in my life.
Okay.
But here's the problem that I'm running into is, okay, so the arrangement with the DA, and the DA required me to complete treatment. And then my mom decided I needed anger management. And you decided I needed anger management, even though that wasn't the deal that was made with the DA. So you tried to change the deal. And at that point you got fired. But you still wrote me the letter a year later, or wrote the court the letter a year later, so that the case got discharged. But apparently...
Wait, I wrote a letter to discharge the case?
You wrote a letter, or I mean, so that it got dismissed. Mm-hmm. You wrote a letter to the court saying, you know, I'd been discharged from fact in treatment through September 2001, and that was it. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, what I'm trying to get there is sort of what was going on, because all I knew is my mom told me that you were arranging everything with the DA. I tried to tell everyone that what I wanted was a fair trial, because my mom was lying out her butt. Mm-hmm. And everybody else arranged this complicated mental health thing, which required me to plead guilty and accept the treatment I didn't want. Mm-hmm. And you wanted the leverage. So I think you're at least partially morally culpable there, and you're the one who told me to take the deal. Yeah. I walked out. I mean, you remember you told me to take the deal.
I was like you said. I said, Aubrey, or I said Justin at the time, take the deal.
You said that.
Because
you said it.
I would have said something like that, just because we're talking about, hey, I'm not looking 10 years from now. I'm looking at, I don't want you in any more trouble. Mom, I mean, I got my hands full trying to keep her at bay, because she's going to change her story. Look, she was a sick woman, always looking at you as the main problem, never focusing on her own stuff.
That's quite correct.
Okay. And so the only way that we can have two people, you know, I mean...
is if one of them utterly surrenders, and it had to be me.
Well, we didn't look at it that way. We didn't see that you were
going to... It's what you accomplished.
That's not our intent. You know, the treatment team, as we were walking through this, because I didn't do anything by myself. You know, this was with our treatment team, you know, all the people there at the FACT team, and we're saying, how am I going to get this family, because the whole idea of the FACT team was, how can we keep a family intact without them either killing themselves, you know, or throwing things at each other? How are we going to be able to pull this one off? Because the odds were that I wasn't going to be able to accomplish squat, that you were going to probably end up in a long-term hospital, Mom was just going to be, you know, forever on her lonesome because she's just too sick, and we prioritized trying to keep the family intact.
But I was reporting abuse. Why were you trying to keep the family intact?
You were describing the fights. And you were describing the fights that... And now, let's go back to what's showing up in front of the cops. All right? I don't remember these guys and what our conversation was like. But whenever a cop is there at the house and they see what's going on, it's up to them to make the final call. You know, we shrinks can only go in there and advocate some things. Here's what
I know it was totally a coin flip that you were there to save my mom and you weren't there to save me. It was a difference of 15 minutes.
But it wasn't about saving Mom. Never, because... Okay.
You realize I would never have been arrested if somebody had acknowledged my mom was abusing me. Instead of, nobody's going to listen, your only chance is to stop her yourself.
It wasn't my intent to be helping or saving Mom, because anything and everything I did was, and again, my hope was just to help you out.
So, how did I end up pleading guilty to this?
why it all turned, that it was making, I don't know how it turned out that you and only you were the bad guy. That really escapes me. Because
my mom is damn good at what she does.
The cops themselves said, Danny, we can arrest her. As I wrote, we can arrest this woman. Okay. I don't know why they decided not to charge or ticket or summon your mom. I don't know why they said, let's just let the kid do it, because the kid's just going to go through the juvenile system, but the juvenile system is probably going to defer it anyway, and he's going to stay in treatment, and it's all going to go away.
So it was going to be a small enough injustice, it was fine if people abused their power?
Not an abuse. Not an abuse. It's just, look, if now let's just say they decided to arrest mom, I don't know where the heck you would end up. Probably some foster care or something like that.
Well, I was a little worried about that because it probably would have been therapeutic foster care, and I probably would not have gotten across the line at my 18th birthday without ending up in a conservatorship.
It could have got ugly.
I mean, in a way, it's almost lucky it went this way instead of me getting M1'd, because I had a way out. It was very, very difficult to slide across my 18th birthday and not be owned, but I pulled it off.
Mm-hmm. But it was a risk that I don't know if
But, I mean, do you at least remember... Because it seems like you're trying to not say anything, and I can totally understand that, because, I wouldn't want to say anything that could get me in trouble either, and I don't, that's not what I'm after here. But could you at least remember me telling you repeatedly I didn't want to enter that plea?
Yeah, I remember you were against anything. You didn't like cops, period. You didn't like anything to have to do with the legal system, period.
But wasn't I expressly clear that I didn't want to waive my right to a fair trial, that I didn't want to admit I was guilty of a crime I wasn't?
And as we were told, you weren't going to be like this, this guilty party to like this battery against mom. You were agreeing that, hey, if I do this treatment, you guys are saying this thing's deferred. Because that's what deferment means.
Well, that's a deferred prosecution. A deferred judgment, you stay guilty forever. It's just that the case gets dismissed. Del Pugh didn't exactly say that, because prosecutors never exactly say that. But he was very clear that I had to enter a plea. And you were sitting right there. And I remember having told you I did not want to do that. And you admitted that, yes, you said I needed to take the deal, because otherwise I was getting fucked. And I probably did, because my mom was going to burn me.
She would have said you need to be in some therapeutic community if you don't go this route, or she would have made something else up that would have made it sound like you're unlivable with, and you need a higher level of care.
So, I mean, is that how I ended up making this guilty plea? Is that how that ended up getting arranged?
It could very well be possible, but see, keep in mind, I'm not thinking, I'm thinking my priority was to you, not to mom. We didn't like each other.
But if your priority was me, why did you keep telling me I needed to take a deal which involved me pleading guilty?
Because this kind of guilt was something that nobody in my capacity could have ever seen 10 years from now going to find its way burning you in the butt, or sticking like it is sticking. Or at least you're saying, and I trust you when you say, Danny, this thing is going to rear its ugly head when I'm going to get, if I want to get licensed in this state, this thing's going to come up.
Not in this state, in other states.
Because my understanding is that what I was trained, this is just part of my training and part of my licensure, understanding Colorado law, is that this nobody gets to hear, nobody gets to know. So I'm a little confused right now that you're saying, but I trust you, that somebody can get this. Because we're thinking, see, the whole treatment team's thinking, nothing's going to happen to Justin. Nothing. This thing's going to go away. It's dead.
So the whole treatment team was part of deciding that a deferred judgment was the way to conclude it.
Because in our understanding from the legal statutes at the time is that this doesn't come and kill you. Because let's just say you wanted to go into the military. They're not going to know.
Actually, they will. The case where Bill Ritter pardoned someone who had a deferred judgment, they were applying for military service, and they weren't allowed in without a pardon.
Because they had
a
adolescent
successfully completed deferred judgment. I don't know if it was adolescent, but the distinction between a juvenile and an adult matter is very small now. And I can assure you that many states require you to openly disclose expunged records.
Mm-hmm.
And many states consider a deferred judgment involves a guilty plea. That is a judicial confession, or an Alford plea, which is as good as a judicial confession.
Yet we were taught 10 years ago that whatever happens as an adolescent is sealed.
Oh, it's sealed.
And it's not like...
When the police type my name into the computer, it shows up, Aubrey Shelmo, batterer, sealed. And that's really great that it says sealed next to it. That's extra special.
Okay, so...
I got burned. I got really screwed over.
So, what do we need to do?
The reality needs to be acknowledged.
I would have no problem writing a letter stating that this thing was never intended to make you the guilty party. Mom was just as guilty, if not more so, in the incident. Okay, the incident where I came in and spoke with the police.
Well, there were two incidents where you came in and spoke with the police. The first one was in April 11th. Let me... This is my brother's letter. It's 2 pages. You can also read my father's letter after it if you wish.
What am I reading? Just the...
Well, the highlighted portions are the useful ones.
Right, okay.
But, so you were saying that the treatment team definitely knew it was a deferred judgment and was down with that. That was arranged. And it was not arranged by me, it wasn't requested by me, that was done by the treatment team.
And to say that we were going to go, we were of the understanding that this was never going to be a harm to you in any way.
And it was okay if I entered a guilty plea as long as it was never going to be harmful.
It was like the equivalent to diversion, where a person is, for juveniles they have a thing called diversion, and if you do X, Y, or Z, this case doesn't exist.
But this was a deferred sentence. It's a very different thing. So the treatment team made the deal, not understanding what it was, and then it was communicated to me that I needed to accept it. And then at least one point you did expressly say that you told me to accept it. You then, in the next sentence, said what I would have said was, and, I would really like it if you would, in your letter, acknowledge that you told me to take the deal. Because part of the problem is everybody's telling me I chose to plead guilty. That's on me. And if you remember, I kept trying to avoid that, but nobody would listen to me. And the only reason I've been able to find in the records for why nobody listened is the word paranoid. On a day where my mother stabbed me in the arm with a fork, Boulder County Mental Health interfered and stopped her from being arrested. On the day where I, having been back to the wall, with my ass on the bed, sitting, warned my mother first, and then struck her once and only once, then locked the door and called the police. And this was after she had assaulted me so much that there were bite marks, visible scratches, recorded by the cops. Oh, and check this out. They even set it up for a welfare placement, but when that went to social services, I don't think that went anywhere. So I had many injuries. My mother had a single injury. And according to both of our statements, the injury she received was the last of the fight. Rather than following it up, I called the cops. Now I understand my mom lied out her ass to the cops. So the cops definitely didn't know that what I had done was an act of self-defense so justified. It was according to police procedures.
Wait, who had the bite on the forearm?
That was me.
Oh, you had?
Yes, and you were the one telling me to plead guilty. because you thought it wouldn't be a big deal if I was forced into treatment, which also gave my mother the absolute power to have me convicted with a phone call. All she had to do was report another crime, and I would get convicted. And you know damn good and well, if she reported another crime, I would have gotten a defense just as great as the one I got the first time around. The prosecutor had set me up to be in jeopardy of being instantly convicted of this crime if I did not comply with treatment. So yes, you got your leverage. Boy, did you get your leverage. And that's not okay, frankly. I mean, I might as well say the word, you're being careful enough. We're talking about unauthorized practice of law here. Mm-hmm. And I don't care. All I want is my pardon, so I'm not guilty of being a person who beats up my mother for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. That's all I want out of this. Mm-hmm. But you did a thing which violates professional ethics, and I think you should acknowledge that. And I think you should acknowledge it in writing.
Aubrey, you know, I'm willing to help you out. All right. I'm sorry you had a mom that was very sick and wooed us in certain ways to manage her own agenda. I mean, you knew that she had this Munchausen by proxy.
And did you know that, or did you think I was paranoid?
No, you would sound kind of... Well, the thing is just sounding paranoid, being paranoid are two different things. And I only wanted to... It's just that sometimes trying to get you to stay focused or just to stay on task was hard to do because, you know, you had legitimate concern that your mom was crazy enough to do the damnedest of things.
Yes.
Okay.
I told you, I mean, in the emancipation thing where you note that I sounded like I didn't want to emancipate, I told you, and these are again your notes, stated he could not emancipate. It's the highlighted portion. Mm-hmm. And I know my mom was doing a bunch of messed up stuff. My mom was the one who did all of the really wrong things. You were just getting jerked around by her.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, what the DA got was this was some kind of mutual fight. And I'm not sure how he got that impression. Mm-hmm. Apparently, he talked to a lot of folks from Boulder County Mental Health. Apparently, he talked to the treatment team.
Right. But am I not accurate when I said both client and mom appear afraid of the prospect of living separately and both seem committed to living together until you turn 18?
Well, my commitment came from the fact that my mom made it clear to me exactly what she could do to me if I attempted to emancipate. That's why I was afraid to try it. Mm-hmm. Which I said above, and you followed up with the line, client sounded rather paranoid. I mean, what were you making of that?
Maybe there was times where I just didn't think she was that sick. But I didn't want to say, I don't believe you. And I'm not going to say on here in writing, I don't believe my client.
Is the reason that I ended up stuck with this deal because you didn't believe me?
No, never. It was never meant that I think my client he's deceitful and that he did this and he should be punished. No, I have a very dysfunctional family. I have to find a way to provide some sort of functionality to keep them together till he's 18. What are my parameters? What can I do? Well, we were always taught that if we can keep a person, and again, we have to.
Would you like to see the piece of paper where my mother is diagnosed with Munchausen's? Check out the date on this. It's January 15th, 1997. That's 2 years before we met. The highlighted portions are the good ones. Mm-hmm. That's the Spooner report. I kept telling you to try and get your hands on a copy of that. Were you ever able to? I know my mom tried to block you.
She would have never allowed us to see this. But it's not that we didn't believe her. I mean, believe you. Well, we saw it.
If you believe me, Then why?
But an altercation, a blow-up occurs. I'm kind of like the guy who here, I'm practically in the position of having to go out there and put a fire out, all right? I'm not out there, I was never, ever your mom's defense attorney or finding a way to keep her, hey, look.
You acted like you were my defense attorney. Boulder County Mental Health made this deal, and I was told by someone on the treatment team, I'm sure you can say that much, no matter how paranoid you are, about me somehow repeating it and you getting in trouble.
Aubrey, I'm not, I'm not afraid of,
Then here, in the privacy of this room, tell me what's going on. And then maybe we don't have to, maybe your letter doesn't have to acknowledge all of that. If you're willing to talk about how my mom was a liar, maybe all you need to do is say, we thought mom was a liar, but this was the best that could be arranged under the circumstances. So maybe don't reveal those things in the letter, but in this room, just tell me the truth.
I'm trying to, but this thing, everything that you have, you've come in here. You're very knowledgeable because it's your case. So obviously you're knowledgeable, and you're talking to someone who hasn't thought this
in 10 years. I know.
In 10 years. Okay, I'm just barely trying to play catch up. I read something in yellow, I go, "Oh shit, I did write that. Wow, what do you know?" I'm kind of.
You at least remember that there was a meeting with Dale Pugh with my mother, you, and me there, right?
No, I don't. But that's not to say it didn't happen, because I know those things would have happened, and I would have.
So if it's in your records, it would probably be accurate.
Yes, if I wrote it, it happened. Okay, if I didn't write it, it didn't happen.
Okay, so, I should have.
So
I have.
You gotta understand.
Will you trust me?
Let
me ask. Will you trust me? I didn't bring it in mostly because I didn't want the statement that was probably just like the paranoid statements. Client seemed rather pleased with this outcome because that just wasn't the case. But there is a record dated September that says you, me, and Mom met with the DA and came to a resolution. That piece of paper exists. It's in my possession.
Okay. So I want you completely exonerated from this entire mess. It was not supposed to ever go this way.
I know. It was the best laid plans of mice and men.
It was just, hey, we keep you in the home, we keep Mom at bay, you turn 18, you leave.
You do know that I limply accepted numerous beatings after that, because my mom told me if I so much as raised my arms to stop her, she would place a single phone call and I would be convicted.
You're saying that this continued?
Oh, yes, it continued.
Where is she now?
In Golden somewhere. I don't really care. We don't speak.
You don't speak? When was the last time you had any contact with her?
4 years.
Oh. She's nothing to you?
Nothing at all.
So she's still really sick?
I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't Munchausen's ate her cat after she ran out of access to me. Her cat definitely died, and she definitely ended up in the hospital from it. I don't know the rest.
And your brother?
My brother still speaks to her.
Where is he now? Does he reside in the state? Or
he's a pilot now. Did you know that? He was hospitalized by my mother twice. He's a pilot now only because he was lucky enough to go live with my dad, which meant that he could have his diagnoses overturned as a child, which meant that the FAA would let him fly a plane. They actually won't let me fly a plane. Thank you, Dan.
Why not?
Something about my mental health history? The FAA is really, really bigoted when it comes to letting you get in a cockpit. My brother is so lucky he has a career, thanks to my mother.
Your mother did a lot of damage.
She did incredible amounts of damage, but she didn't pull off this conviction alone. And yes, it's not a conviction. It was a deferred judgment. But it was not a diversion. I mean, who on the treatment team said that? Because you were under that impression. You said those very words to me, that it would be nothing, if I just played along, everything would be fine because it would all go away. And the alternative was me trying to prove that my mother was a liar, which wouldn't succeed.
This had to
you said that.
This had to come from Dale.
Who's
Dale the DA, because he's telling us, because he has to instruct us, because we're like, again, hey, I'm not an attorney. I'm just a therapist. I'm trying to keep this family intact. How can I do this?
Now, did the treatment team meet with Dale independent of like when me and my mother were meeting with him? Because I never met with him without you present. I was taken to his office twice. You drove me.
I think Jessica, Dale, myself, because we would have treatment team every week.
And Dale Pugh got involved in all that.
He may have showed up on some of those treatment team meetings, or we might have had him in phone conferences. Jessica Fry would have been involved in those meetings.
So you were a part of setting up the deal where the guilty plea was required. Properly involved as a social services fact team sort of thing.
Yeah. We would probably say, I got a 3 o'clock appointment.
Oh dear.
So we need to come up, what's our next step? What do you need me to do?
Well, what are you willing to put in the letter? It would be very helpful if you were willing to acknowledge that you did tell me I needed to take the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Because my mom was telling me to talk to you, and I was telling you I was being beaten and wanted a trial. And I told Dale Pugh that too. Mm-hmm. But that deal was arranged, and I wasn't part of arranging it. I was just told what it was going to be, and that I had to play along, or I was going to get really screwed. And I would like you to acknowledge that in writing.
How about you have a lot of my notes, because you're asking someone to come back 10 years to retrack, how this thing plotted out. Because I was there, but how we did it and how it ended up being in this guilty plea, I don't know how we got to that part, because
well, that happened right before the arraignment when I kept refusing.
You weren't, because it makes it sound, to me it makes this, I'm getting the sense that how you perceive this and how it's written is somehow you're the bad guy.
Well, that's exactly what Dale Pugh believed. That's why he made me plead guilty. And that's why you told me that I needed to take the deal. And you said that.
Dale, I don't even remember what the freaking guy even looks like.
But you did tell me, you would tell any client you acknowledge that they needed to take the deal. You spoke the words to me.
If it was part of a treatment team, and if it was, to stay focused on the treatment and
well, I was getting discharged.
Well, whatever, because what did it say? You just followed through with treatment, even if that said, well,
it just said you met with the. You just said you, me, and my mother met with the DA. It didn't say anything other than that.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't say what the deal was or anything like that. But I'm talking about the phone call that there's no note of between you and me on September 12th, right before the arraignment. I called you from CU. Remember, I was walking around and out of breath. Do you remember that? It was right after 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
It was the day after 9/11. And I was up at CU, and the arraignment was at like 5:30. And I called you, and I asked you. You were going to be at the arraignment, and then you couldn't be there. And I told you I didn't want to enter the guilty plea. Mm-hmm. And you helped reinforce that it was necessary. Mm-hmm. And you're right, I can't prove that from your records. I'm not trying to prove that. I don't care about proving that. I just want to be set free from this that I've carried for so long.
Okay. All right. So you are now in a position that this can be pardoned.
Yes.
Okay. And you're sending. Are you already? You've got a letter already set up.
I'm making application for a pardon based on a finding of innocence, which may never have been done in Colorado before. But hey, that's really not going to stop me.
I can say that the police told me, as written, that they should be arresting the mom for this. Because you were the one with the marks.
Well, that was a different day. Is
that what this is for?
Well, this is part of the pattern. That's the problem. I mean, if you have a 3 o'clock and we can continue this at some point later, I would be perfectly willing to come back.
Okay.
If that's an option.
Well, the problem with is that do you have a time frame on this?
The sooner the better.
But I mean, like, do you have like a deadline date coming up where, you know, in 3 weeks you need to have X done so that you send it in or something like that? Reason being, here's why, is that I'm leaving, I'm going on vacation next week, and I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks.
Out of state, right?
Yes.
Right here, defendant shall waive his right to speedy sentencing. Defendant, the court is requested to defer judgment in sentencing. Defendant will not let me see. Somewhere, it's really hard to find in this, actually. It's pretty complicated. Is conditioned upon defendant pleading guilty to the violations. This is the actual agreement, which then requires. It says I have to plead guilty, and then it says that I continue with mental health. And if you look at my mother's affidavit, she expressly states that somewhere, legal guardian, pursuant to a plea agreement, I was present at the arraignment.
What's this conflict of interest stuff she's talking about?
Well, she was required to sign the paperwork. Your signature's on the plea agreement. If I wanted to try and go to trial, it would have been necessary for me to subpoena all of the records to try and prove what I was talking about with her signature on it. Mm-hmm. So the biggest screw up here isn't even yours. It's that the court let her be my guardian and also the person accusing me and also have Munchausen's.
Yeah. It was a fuck situation.
You helped because you were my only out and you told me to enter the deal.
Because I thought you could get out. We just had to get you to 18 and get you out of this.
And that's why you told me to do that?
Just to get you away from her, I probably would have said yes to that. She's that sick, and you want me to corroborate. I need to stand in front of...
I would like you to corroborate that, yes.
Yeah, I'll do that.
You will do that.
Well, Aubrey, I know how sick your mom was. I had to deal with her. You know, it was a sick situation. And the only way to get you out of this mess, because then it would have been ugly if we would have had her. She would have made some...
Are you willing to write a letter then that says basically 3 things? First, my mother was very, very sick, mm-hmm. that she made stuff up, mm-hmm. that I told you that she was making stuff up, that she would make stuff up, mm-hmm. well in advance, as far back as February. First. Second, that from your understanding, I was not an aggressor, I was not even a mutual participant. I was a child getting my ass kicked. Third, that the treatment team was involved in making this deal, and that pressure was applied to me by Boulder County Mental Health. Don't have to take personal responsibility, I don't care. Mm-hmm. But pressure was applied to me by the organization you work for that said I needed to take this deal. So basically, I was SOL, no due process, convicted, signed, stamped, and sealed.
No, but it didn't go like that. It didn't go like, we're going to get this kid, we're going to screw him over.
But you did make the deal.
We were presented with an option.
And you pressured me to take the option.
Because we thought it was part of it would complement just part of the treatment plan of maintaining this family. As dysfunctional as it was.
And that was your reason?
I think so. I think so. We didn't want to see you in some therapeutic treatment center, or you somehow getting, attached to the system come 18. And we were so close, and I had every intention that you're probably going to be the next Bill Gates.
On that topic, I was going to just offer this as an answer to paranoia and also the whole me being a narcissist claim. But I actually pulled this off while I was stuck with my mom. It's amazing what she'd let me do as long as I just let her beat me whenever she wanted.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing.
But that whole time, she had the ability to tell me she could call my investors. You can keep that, actually. I have many. She told me she had the ability to call my investors and tell them I had pled guilty to beating her up, and that would have dried up everything. And she told me that she could call the police and speak a word, and I would be convicted of that crime. And that is what a deferred judgment means. It means if you get charged with another crime that ends up in a conviction, you get convicted of both. And since the first one was a set of false allegations...
So she's saying that
she used that.
Used it against you. And that's not... That was an abuse on her part, because that was never...
That had nothing to do with you, but you helped set it up, not understanding what was going to be done with it by my mother. I don't believe you had any idea what she was going to do with it, but you did help set it up, and that was a wrong thing.
Anything to undo what your mom used against you, I'll find a way to put it on paper. But obviously I'm gonna need some time, because I'm not gonna be available.
Understandable.
You know, getting married kind of takes away from, you know.
Oh, you're getting married?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
But, I mean, Dan, you know and I know that you pressured me to enter that plea because you thought it was the best thing and it wasn't going to hurt me.
Right.
But it happened, and it was wrong, and it does have a way to hurt me. So you owe me some way to make it better, and you owe me an acknowledgement that I was pressured by Boulder County Mental Health from one side, and my mother from the other, and that was all the outs I had a chance of having. And I don't care how you write it so that your ass isn't on the line. You owe me that admission. You once told me you admired Bester. Be Bester, but give me that admission. All Alfred Bester, Babylon 5. Because the truth speaks for itself with enough evidence.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I'm trying to make here. I have absolutely no interest in seeing you get fucked. I can't promise the same for my mother. She probably would want to fuck you hard. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
All I want is an adequate remedy.
Okay. Let me see what I can do. I would like something in writing of what the bullet points that you need.
I can do that.
You know.
And you can actually hold on to that. You should also read my statement, which makes it very clear exactly how not guilty of the crime I was.
Mm-hmm.
It's all in there, and that's the packet of evidence I set up for you.
Okay.
I just didn't want you reading the wrong parts too early in the conversation, because I wasn't sure what that would do to your willingness to be a part of this. I don't want to see anything happen to you, but you did something that was probably improper, and that was pressuring me to take the deal.
No, I don't think I did anything improper, because I have a high ethical standard that I would never do anything.
So was pressuring me to take the deal then? Was that okay ethically? It was just that you didn't understand that I was going to get screwed?
That it was going to come to this, that mom was going to abuse it, because...
Well, what did you expect? She had Munchausen's. The whole reason I was in the mental health system was because she knew that if you combine on being sane in sane places with false accusations... I'm sure you're familiar with Rosenhan.
Keep me posted on how far you're getting along with in terms of what you're going to, if it's even necessary, for this.
It's absolutely necessary.
This is what, and who...
And I don't get to amend the application.
You don't get to what?
I don't get to amend the application, so it's necessary with the filing of the application.
It's a one-time shot, is what you're saying.
Yes.
It's a one-time shot.
It's a one-time shot, and I have to have everything ready before I say, let's start major attack option 1. Because once we go to total forces, there's no going back.
Okay.
And all I want is an appropriate remedy, which acknowledges that I am not guilty of this heinous thing.
Okay.
And all I want is an acknowledgement that I had absolutely no choice about saying I was guilty.
Hold on. Please make sure.
Sorry.
Let's reconvene. I'm back on 17th of this month, or next month that is. And because if you can, you have my business card?
Well, actually, no, I don't have your current one.
If you want to email some bullets, actually, you want this one. Didn't turn out properly. Okay. Let's go. I can even, if they even allow me to even research this thing.
I mean, I can send you the records, but I wasn't allowed anything about or said by my mom. They blacked that all out with black lines.
Oh, is that what the black is?
I mean, the black on my brother's letter was because there was one thing he demanded my confidentiality about.
Mm-hmm.
The black in all of your records
Mm-hmm.
was the best copies I could get. And the handwritten notes on the Spooner report are my father's because he's just...
Okay, all right, because I'm gonna have to do, I have to try to find out what was, what those black things said. That might even help the case a little. Okay.
And you're willing to do that?
I'm gonna make some calls. It will take me some time, but I'm gonna make some calls. I don't know who's the records people there now, but.
And it's very possible whoever you speak to will not understand the issue in this case regarding the legalities of it. It is very technical.
Mm-hmm.
But I assure you it's present.
Okay.
Are you willing to accept that, or do you need me to set up the legal argument for why it's a problem?
No,
if you're not prepared to believe me, I can send you the papers.
No. I'm going to. I got to find out what I can access. I haven't been there in 7 years, so I don't even know if they're. I got to. But you can ask me. Give me a couple of weeks. So what happened? And I'll let you know. Okay. And then we can go a different angle, or I'll just start writing with what I have and just go with that.
Yeah, and I mean, all I'm after is undoing it. That's all I care about. Mm-hmm. But I think it will be important that it's acknowledged that this wasn't me looking for a plea deal. This was something being set up by BCMH.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
All right.
Hey, Aubrey, this is D.A. Shearer. I wanted to get back with you. Got your email earlier today. So, yes, I did talk to the mental health center. And, oh my gosh, I forgot her name now. I think it was Robin Farmer, and she is human resource person, and that's whom they directed me to when I told them, what was going on. And she basically, here's a mental health system stand, is they forbade me to write any kind of letter talking about anything that has to do with the mental health center. They are saying that is something that you would have to take up with them, since I am no longer an employee. So, sorry about that, but that's kind of where their stance is. And I, explained the majority of the case and the issue. And, again, their point was, well, it's been so many years, and because if you look at the notes, you do, hopefully it's demonstrated, unless it was blacked out in your notes, everybody knew everything that was going on. In other words, your question about whether things were done, that we didn't talk to social services about, your mom's behavior, well, that's a little inaccurate, because social services via Jessica Fry and Eric Stoltz they were very, very much involved in the treatment team and involved in, every angle as we walked through the, your treatment. The other thing, too, is that, upon when this incident with the police came, my notes clearly say that we were doing everything we can to avoid anybody getting arrested. So, because that's our mission, we want people to stay in the home. We don't want them in hospitals, and we don't want them in jail. So we were doing exactly what we've committed to do. So in that respect, I think the mental health center is trying to say is that they feel very, comfortable and confident with, how things were going. Plus, it's documented that we were angling towards discharge. So you weren't in any way, shape, or form going to be, involved in or engaged in our kind of treatment forever. It was actually considered, as I think it's written there, to, get you discharged and get you out. The other point that, I didn't think I made it clear because, I kind of felt bamboozled in our session and kind of was taken completely by surprise, much like Captain Kirk seeing Khan on the screen for in so many years. And I was taken aback, not even remembering half the stuff. But upon, further reflection, Aubrey, you were ill. Despite the fact that your mother was, very ill herself, we were treating, your illness as well. So, Dr. Eliopoulos would not have allowed us to continue treatment if he didn't think so either. So it's, again, we were providing treatment, and we were providing, safety and keeping you in the home, and we were trying to get you discharged, and hopefully you would survive adolescence and do, well for yourself. Which, by the way, I said, well, what about at least giving him a letter for support? And they said, well, we don't know him. Forgive me, I am sorry I said that. We don't know the person, and it's great to hear that you've got letters of recommendation. I think the mental health center is trying to tell me that you are on you're on a roll. I've never, and they've never heard anyone getting bit in the ass because of things that happened to them in their adolescence. And I don't see how your college career could be hampered by things that were, going on. But, that's not for me to decide. But, I've never, in the 28 years that I've been in this business, ever had any problems in that respect. So it looks like, since they're not going to be able for me to discuss and talk about what happened in the past, I'm at this juncture no use to you. I don't see how, because I don't know what's going on with you today, but it sure sounds like you're doing well, and I hope that you focus on that what you're doing is awesome, and you continue on that track and not look at the past and see how this thing could bite you in the butt. I don't see it, and but. They told me to have you call them. You can feel free to disagree, but you're going to have to disagree with them, because they are the people that own these documents, and they're the people that are saying they're completely responsible, and they are demanding that I stay out of it. So I wish I could help more, but there it is, and I wish you well and hope you really kick ass out there. Take care now. Bye-bye.